Hey man, say man, it's the one and only Jamaica man back at it again with the Week 8 quick break. Quickly holding everyone involved in the game of basketball accountable to agendas. I thought it would take a longer time, but we got a lot of narratives that we have to dispel in this particular episode because it gets to a point in the season, whether it's before the All-Star break or towards the playoffs, where people that never dribble a basketball in their life, people that would not know how to perform the fundamentals, need to continue to publish articles and content that allow for them to provide for their families. This is the country we live in. This is how most people operate, and it's unfortunate. I won't condemn them for what they do because that's how they earn their living, and people earn their living by the means in which they feel comfortable. Get it how you live. But what you're not going to do is change the narrative for Dame being in his own right, willing to leave if they didn't change. The changes begin to happen, but not at the rate in which you want it, because you truly want Dame to move on because he sold Portland enough. You use the intel of the perspective of a GM that has been deemed inappropriate for our franchise. And then you publish an article suggesting that Dame is too old to take the money of an extension that would clarify that he's focused on being a Portland Trailblazer, possibly to his retirement. Word. Now Dame too old. Word. So LeBron James isn't 34, 35-ish. Chris Paul isn't also the same age. It's not a possibility for him to be that for Portland in this NBA where they can't hold you. Word. All right, cool. Let's assume these things to be true. So why would we fire a GM knowing that he wouldn't stay regardless if he believed that? Or why would Chauncey Billups have the freedom to be able to move the lineup, like I said previously, by strengthening the forward core? Why would articles also come out about what Dame wants? He ain't talk about that. He didn't dispel that those things were not true. That's just how you feel. You're manipulating it on intel that you don't have. And it's true based on what Damian has spoke about in the media this week. He means what he says. I like that. We need that in a leader in Portland. He said what he said, bruh. Stop trying to make it about everything else because he's not making it that way. Portland is not in a good position right now. But this isn't a typical small market. You can't place that on another man to feel the way that most players in this league, because of what they've seen from KD and LeBron, they misinterpret that as them needing help. They control their own destiny, and this is happening in the latter. Maybe he don't want to leave, like he said, because I didn't hear anything about an extension until this article came out by a corporate entertainment company. I didn't know that that's what he was asking, but how can you put that in your article and then say he may be too old to receive it? If you are a casual fan, just ask yourself that. I thought it was about Dame making a decision to leave. How did he all of a sudden become too old to take money that he's asking for in the middle of an extension that we already gave him? Players that want to stay places ask for extension right away in their contract. Why would he ask for that and then be too old to receive it all of a sudden? If all year people have been trying to place him in big markets. Let's just put all of that together for a second. How does that make sense? Because it doesn't. You get to pinpoint the narrative in the contradiction. Since Dame won't make the decision, you are trying to make the decision for him. Right now, he was out with an abdominal strain. He may play against Minnesota today, Sunday. CJ is out with a collapsed lung. So we're going through some stuff. Norman Powell is playing through an ailing knee, giving it all he got. And Nurkic isn't happy through his family being able to speak on his behalf. And he still, Damian Lillard has the ability, he says he speaks with Chauncey every day. So you can't put them two against each other. Our GM, Jim Cronin, Chauncey, and I believe the next in charge had a press conference, which typically GMs don't do. I see Lacob, he does that from time to time, where he just gives you the state of affairs of the team. But why do you think they doing that? They're getting ahead of the curve so you can't say that something is happening that is not. Or the people that are involved that you're speaking about is lying. But that's what you want to create, a perception that it's them, not you. But you are the only one that needs to sell something because we're so close to the first break in the year. So you got to sell something to give people to talk about, to give you views, to be able to command the living in which you are earning. And for me personally, I won't condemn you, but I think that's unfortunate that you must place other people in your way in order for you to make a way for yourself. That's more psychological, and that's more of a mental health issue, if you ask me. Has nothing to do with the game, and that's why I'm here. We're going to separate things that don't need to be in a game with a simple, you put the ball in the basket and you stop people from putting the ball in the basket. That's the nature of the game. So, he said what he said. He means what he says. He understands he can't trust you all, so he's not talking to you all to give you this narrative that you just created because he doesn't want to play ball with you all. Find somebody else. This isn't the right small market where you coerce a small market, if you will, which is offensive. It's offensive. It's 30 NBA teams. Every team has a chance to win. And we're not one of those teams that complain when the big market does something that they wish they could. That's not what we're here for. Leave us alone. Straight up. Let us do us. Let us do what we always do. And ask yourself, when has Portland not been competitive? We've been bad. But in every single decade since the 70s, we've been competitive. And that's a fact. We're going to continue to be competitive. We're going to make the changes we want to make. And things will play out on our timeline, not your first break timeline. I digress. Secondly, shout out to Houston, Splash Picks, Splashtown Rockets, Call Miss Megan, shout out to Sauce Walker. Shout out to those young men that are finally figuring it out. Shout out to Jason Tate, shout out to Amari Brooks, shout out to Gary Bird. Drill. Call Miss Megan. I told y'all that Houston was going to make an effort to be better. They just had to figure it out. I didn't think it was going to take 8 weeks, but they are in a position to start another streak after having a 5 to 6 game streak early on in the season. You got to see that as a positive. But the only thing that comes out of that is an obvious question. You don't have a point guard. You don't. You have played 2 guards and a point guard. These 2 guards play differently. They've tried to make it work, but Jalen being hurt has shown, even a casual fan, that they play much better without both of them on the floor. So that means at some point, maybe not next year, maybe the year after, they're going to have to make a decision. And Jalen isn't the most effective point guard to help them win, but he is a valuable asset, just like KPJ is a valuable asset. They're taking turns, if you will, but that's not conducive to winning, and it kind of hurt Christian Wood's stock as a result of them having to get theirs, and then he had to figure out how to play from there, because similar to a floor spacing big, you need floor spacers for him to play in space. They have that, and there's a game of the week that I would like for you to check out if you haven't done so already. Memphis Grizzlies versus the Houston Rockets. Memphis was victorious, but I want you to see the level of competition that both teams without their quote-unquote best players were able to commend because they're moving like this. In each and every scenario, this particular concept is the only way that any team, regardless of what level you're on, play well. and it was a very competitive game. Shout out to John Morant, too. He's one of the most supportive teammates without playing that I've ever seen in the social media area. And he's watching film, so hopefully he's seeing what I'm saying about these two younger players, spots that he could play in that allow them to continue to play in this way. Shout out to them both. Shout out to Splashtown. I appreciate what you all doing, and I knew it from the moment that they brought you guys together that this would work. And most importantly, shout out to Gary Bird. Keep shooting that joint. Amari Brooks, keep shooting it because that's what makes that offense work. Thirdly, y'all better leave Steph Curry alone. Stop playing with that man. All you doing is giving him another reason to be the MVP. And again, that's another agenda. Oh, Matisse Thybulle stopped him. He defended him like he was paid to do. Please do not mistake what he was capable of doing tonight for something that he has done forever. I would say Matisse, just look up Ruben Patterson. I'm going to leave it like that. You better leave Wardell alone. Thirdly, and probably finally for this particular episode, I spoke about Jello playing on the Hornets. Shout out to AB the Hero. He has specified all of these things. And shout out to G League TV for me daring the debate. The Martin twin that's playing for them has the highest field goal makes from three in the NBA with 50 attempts. The only reason that I would say he would replace Jello or Jello would replace him is because of his ability to shoot. But I think he's worked pretty hard to keep his spot, and he's more of an athlete than Jello, so it's going to be hard. But Jello did his thing efficiently on the G League level, and I feel like at this point it's going to play out where Jello has to play somewhere else. But at the same time, I'm going to speak about agendas from a family perspective. I told y'all LeVar was playing chess, correct? Well, he's now speaking out against Michael Jordan because he doesn't want his son to be there in this franchise where he's not being of service. He showed that he was efficient. He spoke about his trek getting to the NBA and how he was technically a pro since 16 like many European prospects, but he's an American prospect. He's unconventional in how he brought his sons up, and he wants what he wants when he wants it. No different than the corporate entertainment companies at the top, if you will, quote-unquote top. You have LeVar Ball carving out the same mechanisms mentally and wanting his son to be in a better situation. He spoke out against Michael Jordan. Jai like sneak this the dude. What can Michael Jordan teach me? He hasn't won a championship since 97, and the game has changed. He hasn't done anything for the Hornets since he became owner of the team. They haven't even played and went far in the playoffs. So what can he tell my son? Something to that nature. And I'm like, well, he's right. Don't shame the man for telling you the truth. Be aware of why he's saying that truth. Because he always knew it from the moment that his son got drafted, but he wanted him to be a high pick. Like he wanted Jello to be drafted to be able to have the flexibility, in LaMelo's case, to be paid as such, have the cap hits as such, but Jello being able to have the mobility. He kind of doesn't like the fact that Zoe is in Chicago, and Chicago is having a lot of injury influx, and although they're good, they're small. It's the same way. I hold LeVar accountable in the same way that I hold those people that keep trying to write the agendas. It's going to play out the way it's supposed to, and it's not going to change because you feel a certain way about a particular player or a particular CEO. Get it how you live is the quote, motive, whatever you want to say of this particular episode. Because 8 is an affinity type of spectrum, and these are who these people are. Jello deserves a shot, but not on the Hornets. Melo is the best player on the Hornets and can be, but they're using that as leverage to have their way. And you think a man like Michael Jordan is going to let that ride? So stay tuned. And remember, it's in you, not on you. Enjoy week 9. I'll be back in the nick of time. You dig? Be blessed. Be protected. Stay prosperous. Ism.